I've got the Chiefs at 5. I didn't have them at the start of the year making Super Bowl, and nothing that I saw in week 1 made me change that. Made me change my mind with that. Yeah, admittedly, they still probably should have beat the Lions, and they were missing 2 huge players. But I mean, you've got to beat the Lions at home, despite that. And yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to have some problems this year. The receiving core is very, very thin. Mahomes can't do everything. He can't throw the ball to himself. Yeah, I think I still have them winning a division, and I still think they're a very good team. But
okay, cool.
I've got the Eagles at 4, behind the Cowboys. Now I jump ahead and put the Cowboys at 3. I think the Eagles. I think we forget that the Eagles have lost their DC and they've lost their play caller as well. And I think you're noticing it a little bit. They're ridiculously talented. They have so much talent. But I just think this might be the year that the Cowboys beat them. But they're the Cowboys. So the Cowboys, just in terms of you can't read too much into a 40-0 butt whooping against the Giants in a rainstorm, but that D is legit, very good. Yeah, it's really, really good. So
at every level.
Yeah, and number 2, I'm not going to overreact. I've got the Bengals at number 2. Wait and see. Wait and see this week. They've got the Ravens coming to town. That's a big game. Big game. Bengals can't go 0-2 and 2 losses in division. And I just put it down to Burrow not practicing much in the preseason and the rainstorm in Cleveland. And the Bengals could not block the Browns D line. The Browns D line is going to be a problem. So good luck, Steelers, my Steelers, blocking that D line. And number 1, the 49ers, who they've got so many players in, it's almost unfair how many players they've got on D, on offense, scheme to take away 1 or 2, and then scheme to take away the running game, and then Debo's gonna and Ayuk's gonna crush you over the middle, catching the ball. The defense, I mean, Bosa didn't even have a great game. So yeah, I've got
for choice, aren't they?
Best team.
Cool. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so slightly different top 5 to Paul. I've for week 1 I've gone with teams that have won, but I'm not gonna probably do this all year. But for week 1, I have got at 5 the Baltimore Ravens. Not the most impressive win, but they got the job done, and I think we've got a good segment coming up for the Ravens versus the Bengals. So I'll save what I've got to say about the Ravens for then. At 4, I've got the Dolphins. Granted, there's definitely some issues defensively that they've got to work on, but that offense is going to cause a lot of headaches this year. And I'll be very interested to see how Bill Belichick stops Tyreek Hill this time, because in recent past, Belichick will double Hill for the whole game, and it still doesn't work in the end overall. He just will break one big play, even in a game like that where he's being doubled all game. We've seen it in Foxborough a number of times. So I've got Dolphins at 4.
Okay.
I've got the Eagles at 3. As Paul said, new OC, new defensive coordinator. That front 7 still looks electric. Slay got the work last night from Jefferson. Jefferson got a bit of payback for last year when Slay locked him down. But I'd say, that defense, while it gave up a lot of a lot of yards in the air. I think as the season grows, they will continue to be one of the elite units. Offensively, lots of question marks, I think. New OC, so got to give it time, but big question marks, I'd say, especially on the passing game. At 2, I have gone for the Cowboys. Yes, it was the Giants, but at the same time, you can only beat who's in front of you, and that defense potentially could be the number 1 defense in the league this year. I think that front 7 is ferocious. Then when you couple it with the fact that they've got Trayvon Diggs on one side, who is a bit of a chancer, he's going to get burnt a few times, but he's going to get it right as well.
Yep.
And then you've got the experience of Stephon Gilmore on the other side. I think they've got the potential to be the number 1 defense this year.
Yeah.
With Defensive Player of the Year Micah Parsons. At 1.
I wonder who this is going to be.
I mean, I can't be called a homer because I just think the performance in the first half was pretty much perfection. I've got to pick my 49ers. San Francisco 49ers look like the most complete team in the NFL after week 1. There's 16 more weeks to go, but when you look at the front 7, the way that Fred Warner set the tone for the defense, he gave the boom to Najee Harris and said, "Welcome to the 2023 season." Yeah. As Paul said, Nick Bosa, not really a factor. What I saw on film was an explosion in the interior for Javon Hargrave. Didn't really, he might not have got to the quarterback much, but he was blowing shit up is what he was doing. Yeah. And I'm very intrigued to see how a former Trojan, Drake Jackson, goes this year, because he started. We've been hoping for a step up this year, and he starts the season with 3 sacks. Granted, he's got Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead next to him. That's what you're there for now. You are going to be the one that eats. And I'll wrap up real quick, sorry. Offensively, we have not seen even, half of what this offense can do. Debo, dormant in the game. Kittle, carrying an injury. I mean, that run just summarized everything about the 49ers. McCaffrey getting hit, spins off the hit, continues running. Ayuk, bang. I can't remember who it was, but that block was beautiful. And then you had a former Steeler, Ray McLeod, charging downfield, making the block. With McCaffrey, realizing the situation, slowing down, waiting for the block to happen. Yeah, 49ers at 1.
Okay, so that's yours, Jay. My power 5 after week 1. I'm going number 5 with the Chiefs. I was umming and ahhing whether to put them in. Mahomes still played pretty good, considering it was week 1, especially when we compare him to Burrows and a few other quarterbacks. He didn't have Kelsey. Obviously, he's going to struggle. I can't honestly believe that the wide receivers are going to play that bad going forward. I don't think they can play any worse. So they've got to get a bit better. And they're going to have Chris Jones back now. So looking at where they were, even though they played terrible, they still had opportunities to win that game. And they're only going to get better. I still think they're going to trade for a wide receiver before the trade deadline. And over the last 5 years, I've learned, don't doubt Mahomes. Why am I putting in 5, you might say? Well, this is just based off of week 1. So that's why they're in at 5 and not any lower than that. Number 4, I've gone with the Eagles. I was umming and ahhing whether to have them higher or not. But again, if we're looking at the first week, and their second week performance did impact on this. Like, they haven't played great, but they've got the 2 W's, right? That's what the game's about. It's getting the wins when you're not playing good. They're only going to get better. They've got new coordinators. They've got to get time. Hurts will hopefully will improve. Actually, no, I don't want him to improve. So hopefully he continues. But the trenches, both offensive line, defensive line, are so strong. When you've got a good D line and an O line, that's half the battle straight away. They've got the skilled players. So for me, they're number 4. Number 3 is the Dolphins. Now, again, I was thinking whether to have them here, higher, lower. No. The reason I've got them 3 is I think they're only going to get better. That's week 1, and that was a team that looked like, on offensively anyway, they're in week 8, week 9, week 10. They were just on it, and think how they're going to get better over the next few weeks. And when Ramsey returns, that defense is only going to get better. It's going to get more experience, more leadership. So, and they did play the Chargers away. They had to go across the country in week 1. Might not be the most intimidating place to go, but you're having to go against a talented team, against Herbert in his own house, against Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who unfortunately went out early injured, Eckler, Bosa, Derwin James, and they got the W. What can you say? So Miami are my number 3. Number 2, I've gone with the Dallas Cowboys. This was a hard one because I'm not a huge Dallas fan personally, but that D is elite. That D is special, man. Like Micah Parsons, my bet for Defensive Player of the Year. He just makes everyone around him look better, and it helps when the players around you are already very good. They've added Stephon Gilmore to their secondary. That experience, as Jay's already mentioned, to go alongside Diggs. They just got everything, player for player. I have concerns with the offense. I do take into account they played the Giants. Conditions weren't great. The Giants almost threw the towel in quite late in that game. But they won 40-0. You can't take that for granted in week 1. And number 1, 49ers. Basically everything I just said about the Cowboys, but also on the offense. It's that they were complete on the defensive side. I think the only thing, or one of the only things I would say if I was picking against it, was that Fred Warner should have had an INT. He dropped a simple INT, and you could tell by his reaction after he was kicking himself. But he still played amazing. On the offense, Kittle's only going to get better. Like they put up, how many points was it in the end, Jay? Was it 40 something? Or around? It
was only 30.
Oh, it was 30 in the end. Okay, they put up 30 points with Kittle hobbling, basically being there more so on the blocking side of it. Eckler. You got your running back. I've had a complete mind blank. McCaffrey, amazing, catching the ball out of the backfield, run game. Shanahan's going to just come up with so many plays week in, week out to get him the ball in space. My guy, I mentioned this to Jay a few weeks ago, Ayuk, I think he's going to take another step this year. He did in week 1, and I think that will continue. And over these next few weeks, if he does continue like that, then all we're going to see is Debo come in more space. And when that happens, I feel sorry for the team that he explodes on. When you've got McCaffrey and you've got Ayuk performing without Kittle and Debo even being in the equation, that team is scary. That team is so scary. I had questions about their O-line against the Steelers' D-line. I don't have any questions anymore.